Tottenham on the cusp of signing a new goalkeeper. Sandro Tonali to Newcastle is edging ever closer. Ilkay Gundogan to Barcelona is pretty much a done deal. Bernardo Silva could be edging ever closer to a move to Saudi Arabia. And Romelu Lukaku emerges as a potential target for not Inter Milan, but AC Milan instead. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Another all new news video is what we've got in store for you today. Talking some of the biggest headlines from the world of football, of course. Before we get into all of that, I would like to remind you, please like the video and also subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things always and from be greatly appreciated. I also encourage you all throughout the live stream to get involved in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you all on anything I'm talking about or anything else that you guys want to talk about and could make it interesting and great reading on all of that. But before any of that, we're going to get into our first talking point today, and it revolves around Tottenham Hotspur, who we know have been after a new goalkeeper for a while. We know that they've obviously been interested in David Raya of Brentford for a long time, but this one emerged yesterday fully and went by at a very quick pace, it seems, throughout the entirety of the day. And it revolves around Empoli goalkeeper Guillermo, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right again, I'm sorry if I butchered it, Guillermo Vicario. Now, admittedly, I do not know too much about this player, but it emerged yesterday that Tottenham had reached a verbal agreement with Empoli for Vicario, and that personal terms was certainly no issue whatsoever. Yesterday, Fabrizio Romano has been all over this, and he basically stated that Tottenham have reached agreement on personal terms with Guillermo Vicario on 5-year contract, valid until 2028. Spurs also agreed personal terms with Raya, but Brentford's 40 million asking price is considered too high. Official bid to Empoli for Vicario soon. He then went on to state today that Tottenham are set to submit official bid worth 19 million euros for Guillermo Vicario. Negotiations with Empoli entering into the final stages now. Personal terms have been agreed on 5-year deal valid until June 2028. He also followed up that tweet with another one on this. Tottenham and Empoli are prepared to complete Guillermo Vicario deal as the official bid is expected to be accepted in the next hours. 19 million euros proposal incoming, and personal terms agreed yesterday on 5-year deal for Vicario until June 2028. So this one, like I say, is moving at a very quick pace and is all expected to really take off, shall we say, within the coming hours, and then, of course, be signed over the course of the coming days. And now, like I say, I'm not a massive connoisseur of Empoli as a football club. I very rarely watch them. I watch them maybe if there is the occasional Serie A game onwards, and it's something along the lines of one of the bigger clubs, or one of the more well-known and notorious clubs of Serie A, shall we say, in terms of AC Milan, Inter Milan, or Napoli, or Juventus. But I can't say I've watched too much Empoli games or I know too much about this guy. So this is basically going off scouting reports and what I've seen and what I've heard. But this guy does seem to be a competent goalkeeper enough to the point where obviously he's been brought into the Italian national side fold over recent years. And, you know, I've seen a lot of Tottenham fans not exactly happy about this. And to that I say, is that just because he's not a flashy big name for a goalkeeper? I know that obviously David Raya, you could argue, isn't a big name as well, but at least he's more well known in the Premier League. Is it just because that he's not a well known name? Is that why a lot of fans are angry about this signing and angry about, well, we didn't get David Raya, so what? So who the hell is this guy? I understand that David Raya may have been your first choice, but that isn't exactly to say that A, the first choice is going to completely work out. B, the second choice or third choice or whatever the hell this is not going to be as better as the first choice, because let's face it, I guess there have been times in the past where alternative options have actually worked out better or have worked out better than expected by fans, and alternative options have obviously been brilliant signings. Look at Mohamed Salah of Liverpool, for example. Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool alternatively had the likes of Mario Götze and Julian Brandt ahead of him in that list. They signed Salah, and look what happened. Salah has gone on to become an exceptional and world-class player at the top of his game, one of the best the Premier League's ever seen, and at some point was obviously one of the best or the best in Europe for a time. This could be, not to the extent of being one of the best maybe, but certainly a player that works out for Tottenham in the long run, because like I say, it's a cheaper deal than what David Raya would have been. Now, again, that isn't to say that he isn't on David Raya's level or anything along those lines. It's just the way that obviously the negotiations between Tottenham and Empoli have worked out. But Tottenham fans are going to see it as that. They're going to see it as Daniel Levy penny pinching. Daniel Levy looking for a cheaper deal. Daniel Levy looking to weasel out of paying a heftier price tag. And let's face it, the price tag seemingly for this is over 50% less than what they would have paid for David Raya. But again, I will say this, like, did Tottenham have a list of goalkeepers that they wanted? Did Ange Postecoglou come in and have a list of goalkeepers that he wanted? And maybe the Empoli goalkeeper, Vicario, was on that list. Maybe David Raya was at the top, but is that in chronological order? Is that these goalkeepers can fill a quota and a criteria for us, no matter what that may be? I'm just interested to know what Tottenham fans feel on this, because from just casting my brief eye across social media, it doesn't seem like a lot of Tottenham fans are too happy or excited about the prospect of this guy coming in, because obviously they feel David Raya was the first choice. David Raya was the better choice. David Raya was the one that they wanted, first choice, everything along those lines. And that this guy is an alternative to him, and a cheaper alternative at that, that of course fits with Daniel Levy's MO, his motive, and everything else that goes along with that, as far as him being like Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob and like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, I guess, that I've alluded to in the past, in terms of obviously penny pinching, trying to get a cheaper deal, and just in general trying to obviously save Tottenham money and cut corners wherever possible. Is that just the case of this? Very interested to know, obviously, what you guys think on this one. For me, like I say, I can't say that I know too much about him, but it seems that Postecoglou, if this is obviously one of his deals, seems to know and rate him highly enough to obviously go for this one, rather than obviously go for the David Raya deal. It's obviously on a 5-year deal, so they have a lot of confidence that he's going to be working out for the long run. And of course, like I say, he's Italian, who's been recently brought into the Italian fold in terms of their national team and everything. And not only that, but he must be highly rated at some point, because having done some research, he seems to have been attracting the interest of the likes of Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Napoli, and Manchester United. So there obviously is something with this guy that has attracted a fair amount of interest, but Tottenham seem to have pulled the trigger. And then obviously a market in which a fair few clubs are looking at goalkeepers this summer. You look at the likes of Chelsea, Manchester United. Obviously, we know about Tottenham. And then you look abroad with the likes of Andre Onana possibly leaving Inter Milan. So Inter Milan may be looking for a new goalkeeper there. AC Milan looking to keep hold of their star goalkeeper as well. There does seem to be a sort of domino effect with goalkeepers going forward. And we'll wait and see, obviously, if anything does materialize any further on that one. But at the same time, like I say, there must be something with this guy. And I think if you're a Tottenham fan right now, you really have to trust the process, and you really have to trust what this guy is going to be throwing at you. And you really have to go forward and back the manager on this one, because otherwise you're going to end up where you were before with Mourinho, with Conte. And I know that obviously they trusted them kind of signings before that those kinds of managers made. But otherwise, you've got to eventually trust someone, right? And don't get me wrong, I've been very vocal on Postecoglou beforehand. I've been very vocal on the fact that I don't necessarily believe Postecoglou to be the right choice of manager, given his history, given this like being his first major role, first major managerial role at a bigger club with obviously a bigger ceiling, a bigger platform, and everything along those lines. I've been very vocal on that, and I said that maybe it's not necessarily on him as a manager. Maybe it's more so on the common factor or common denominator of the club, because obviously the amount of managers that Tottenham have gone through these past several years has been a large quantity of numbers. Poch, Mourinho, Nuno Espirito Santo, Antonio Conte, and now Postecoglou. I said that it might not work out for him in terms of obviously his experience and him managing a club of this level and with this magnitude and on this platform. But at the same time, it's more so on the club, and it might not be necessarily solely and completely on him. But you have to trust the process on this. You have to trust what he might have given the green light to. You have to trust what he might have signed off on. You have to give some sort of leeway on this. And I get that he's a goalkeeper, and I get that obviously goalkeepers don't have the similar luxury that an outfield player would, because an outfield player, if he has a season in which he fails to settle down completely, people will go, yes, but I see his potential. I say the same thing with Darwin Núñez. I think he's had a bit of a hit and miss season, but I see the potential. I see the quality in Darwin Núñez that some people simply don't see, and some people are of a similar sort of vision of me that they do see. They see his pace, they see his movement, they see the kind of chaos that he can cause for opposition defenses. They can see that, and they can say, if we can just smooth out the rough edges of this guy, maybe, just maybe, he could be a star player, a quality signing for years to come. And I still genuinely believe that Darwin Núñez will come good. For goalkeepers, it's not exactly that. Look at Claudio Bravo at Manchester City, for example. When he got found out about his distribution and about some of the mistakes he was making, Pep was very ruthless and cut him from the squad after just a season. You look at Loris Karius of Liverpool, made that absolute howler in the Champions League. But even before then, you could tell that this guy had come in, okay, not for as big money. I think it was roughly for about 5 million or something. And ultimately it failed because he was very inconsistent and he made a ton of very simple, basic goalkeeping errors that obviously cost Liverpool a fair amount of points and ultimately, in the end, cost Liverpool the Champions League title. There has to be a period of trust for Tottenham. And like I say, you can't be all losing your minds over this. Like, yes, it's not maybe your first choice, but maybe this was also being worked on in the background at the same time. And maybe they kept their options open. Does this now mean that the David Reyes situation is put to bed as far as what Tottenham are concerned? Maybe. Does this maybe allow another team to come in for the likes of David Raya? Maybe. We already have heard numerous links with the likes of Chelsea and Manchester United for Raya. Maybe one of those two teams or both of those two teams mount their interest again, and that saga reignites once more. We'll have to wait and see what happens on David Raya, but what we do know is that Tottenham are on the cusp of signing Guillermo Vicario of Empoli, a goalkeeper that obviously Tottenham have been targeting, or that position at least that they've been targeting for a long time after, from the end of the season beforehand. But yeah, we wait and see. We wait and see what happens. This one does seem to be a done deal. And like I say, for I think the price, for I think the kind of competent goalkeeper that he seems to be, I'd argue for Tottenham fans to maybe trust the process on this one, because like I say, otherwise you're going into the season already in complete disarray and chaos, and you're not gonna achieve anything if you're in that kind of state of mind, state of a club. So trust in Postecoglou, trust in what obviously he seemingly has given the green light on, shall we say. We don't know that for sure right now, but he seems to have given the green light on it. Trust in what he says, and obviously, like I say, maybe get on board with this one. Obviously, like I say, maybe frustrating that you've been chasing David Raya and then you're going for some sort of alternative. And I know that it sort of fits Daniel Levy's kind of motive to, of course, go for a cheaper deal, a cheaper option, which is, of course, what has happened here. But at the same time, needs to be given some sort of level of trust, in my opinion. Next, we're moving on to Sandro Tonali. This one is picking up rapid pace. And we talked yesterday about how Newcastle had gone from interested to potentially putting in a bid. Well, this deal is another one that is moving fast and snowballing and gathering momentum at a very rapid rate, because he seems to be on the cusp of signing for Newcastle. We're just waiting, obviously, official confirmation on a bid accepted between the two clubs, but there does seem to be talks and negotiations going on as we speak between Newcastle and AC Milan over a structure of a deal after personal terms were seemingly agreed yesterday. Let me just see if I get this right. So I think it was Romano who put out first yesterday. Newcastle are on the verge of reaching full agreement with Sandro Tonali on personal terms. A salary proposal is really huge. Contract until June 2029 for €8 million net plus €2 million in add-ons. Salary per season. And then Milan and Newcastle are still discussing structure of deal and add-ons. I think it was David Ornstein who followed up with, it was either David Ornstein who put it out first and then Romano, or Romano and David Ornstein. Either way, it doesn't really matter. They're still following up on each other's story. Ornstein then put out Newcastle close to agreement with AC Milan to sign Italy international Sandro Tonali for a fee in the region of €70 million. Subject to final negotiations for 23-year-old, Newcastle would be landing Eddie Howe's top midfield target, as James Horncastle revealed a couple of days ago. We talked about this. We said that, in my opinion, this would be an absolute quality signing, and I do not change my opinion on that. Sandro Tonali to Newcastle will be a phenomenal and quality signing. And we know that obviously Newcastle have been looking to bolster and beef up their midfield options. They've been linked with the likes of James Maddison and Nicolo Barella. Whether those two options are completely now dead in the water or not remains to be seen. I think Barella more so is than Maddison, but of course we wait and see the kind of budget that Newcastle have first. Obviously, there have been reports that it's not as big of a budget as what we all would have imagined it would be, obviously having these new owners and winning the lottery, so to speak. But this is a big move for Newcastle. The biggest move that they have obviously made since the takeover. The biggest move that they could have well, not could have made, but the biggest move that they've simply made for, I believe it's going to be it should be a record fee, right? Unless I'm missing something completely obvious. But no, it seems to be a big record club fee for the club record fee for the club. And like I say, I think this guy's fantastic. I think this guy is simply phenomenal as a talent, a brilliant player, brings a lot to the table in terms of his ability and his talent and his quality, whether it's his pressing, whether it's his passing, whether it's his creativity, his technical ability, his positional awareness to obviously transition defense into attack, whether it is to win the ball back or whether it is to create space for himself in order to receive the ball and move the ball forward quickly. This guy is a very, very, very good and high quality midfielder with a lot about him. And obviously, like I say, he is a quality midfielder with a ton of experience as well. Even at the age of 22, like I say, he's a quality midfielder with that experience. He's won the Serie A title with AC Milan. He's been in the Champions League. He helped them get to the Champions League semi-final this season alone. So this guy has still got a wealth of experience under his belt to say he's pretty young and can still obviously grow and grow further his quality and his potential. And for me, this locks down a position in Newcastle's midfield for several or many years to come, shall we say. And I think that for the here and now, it boosts their squad, it boosts their depth, and I think it complements their midfield well. I said this yesterday. I think when you look at the likes of Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes in midfield and also Joe Willock, I guess you'd say, coming from the bench and everything, and even to an extent, Sean Longstaff, all of these players all will complement each other very well. And Tonali coming in is just the icing on the cake for me. Because his versatility, whether it be to sit deep as a deep line playmaker, play that number 6 role, can press, can obviously win the ball back, or whether it's be a more box-to-box number 8 type of player, this guy has got it all in midfield to be one of the most creative, one of the most tenacious, one of the most aggressive midfielders in the Premier League. And that's why I personally think that this is an absolute quality move in terms of versatility that, of course, we know Eddie Howe likes, but also it will complement Joelinton. So if Joelinton is going to be that box-to-box, that work rate, that engine, that industrious midfielder that we have seen of him this past year, Tonali can complement him by sitting back and being the more creative outlet, being the ball winner. If Guimaraes is going to be the more attacking outlet of the 3 in midfield, Tonali can drop deep again, can be the ball winner, can be the playmaker from deep. If obviously you got someone else in there like a Longstaff, maybe Tonali moves to more of a number 8 role. If obviously they decide to maybe go a bit more attacking, maybe they go 2 up front, Tonali can move to a number 8 role. The versatility and the options become more so, and of course, we still wait to see if obviously they're going to make more waves in this transfer window. I would strongly suspect that they do. We do know, like I say, that they're after a second midfielder. If that's going to be a more attacking midfielder in the form of James Maddison, that would, in my opinion, be another quality and perfect signing, I think, for Newcastle. But we wait and see, obviously, how the finances lie for the Magpies. But 70 million euros, which will probably work out maybe like 60 million, depending on the structure of the deal or something along those lines, on a 6-year deal for a player of this quality, of this versatility, of this level of experience at still a very young age that can continue to grow and evolve his game. Newcastle United, this is incredible. And this, again, shows fantastic ambition by the club. And I would be very excited and very intrigued and optimistic for the future if I was a Newcastle fan. Obviously, the takeover has allowed this, but again, you still have to have the vision in place to put that money to good use and to good work. And for me, this is a perfect signing and an absolute no-brainer. For me, I'm a little jealous. I can't lie. I'm a little jealous that Newcastle have signed this guy. He's a player that I've rated for a while. And I'm very intrigued to see, obviously, how Sandro Tonali works out in the Premier League. But I'm very, very intrigued nonetheless. Moving on, we're going to come to Manchester City duo Ilkay Gundogan and Bernardo Silva. We're going to start with Gundogan first. Ilkay Gundogan to Barcelona. Here we go. Final approval arrived on club side to register him as a new signing. Green light from the player. It's a done deal. Signed a few minutes ago. This was from Fabrizio Romano yesterday. So when it says a few minutes ago, in actual time right now, it's several hours ago. Gundogan has agreed a 2-year deal valid until June 2025 with an option of a further year. Quality signing from Barcelona. We know that obviously they've had struggles financially. We know that they are not in the best of states right now, but of course were good enough to win the La Liga title this season. For me, this is a quality signing. I said whoever does pick up Gundogan will have picked up a quality signing for his age. And it's no surprise that a club like Barcelona would do so. A club like Barcelona are obviously on the lookout to try and work their way back up, I guess you'd say, to a good financial standing. Obviously, they've sold everything and anything that they could obviously put a price on. And of course, have tried to sign players still of high quality and for bargain prices, and Gundogan is no exception to this. Gundogan is a player that I rate very highly and I like a lot. And obviously has been a very important player for Manchester City these past several years that he's been at the club, and has popped up with some big goals here and there, and he's been a part of some really big and clutch moments, and ultimately has won everything there possibly could be during his time for Manchester City. Finally added that all-elusive Champions League title to his CV this season. Multiple-time Premier League winner, multiple FA Cups as well, League Cups. Even if you want to add the Community Shields in there, I guess you could. Either way, this guy, wealth of experience, a winning mentality, a quality midfielder, makes runs from deep, good at ball retention, an absolute leader on that pitch, and Barcelona have managed to sign him. It'll be interesting to see his role in that Barcelona team under Xavi. And obviously, like I say, I think he will do the world of good to the likes of Pedri and Gavi in particular, because they're young midfielders and they can learn a lot from this guy. They can learn a lot from his experiences and his obviously ability and his talent and everything. And I think that this not only works out on the pitch, but I think it would work out off the pitch as well. And those kinds of young players, not just them two, but of course Barcelona have a wealth of youth and a wealth of youngsters in their academies as well that could learn a lot from Ilkay Gundogan going forward. This says to me that this is going to be a quality signing that has a lot more forethought to it than just what he can offer on the pitch as well as off the pitch. So for me, quality signing by Barcelona. Ilkay Gundogan soon to be unveiled as an official Barcelona player. And yeah, we'll see how he gets on in La Liga next season. Next up, Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva. The overall reports are stating that this player could be on the verge or edging ever closer to a move to Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Arabian influence on this transfer window continues to tighten and tighten and tighten as the Saudi Arabian League are looking to boost the reputation and the quality of their own league by, of course, attacking Europe in this transfer window and scattergunning to an extent, at least, scattergunning a lot of top European players. And Bernardo Silva, we've talked about this before, has seemingly been on that target list for a while. Obviously, I keep on saying this, but tell me it's a transfer window without telling me it's a transfer window, and you tell me that Bernardo Silva is being linked with a move away from Manchester City in the same way that we used to talk about Wilfried Zaha looking for a move away from Crystal Palace. Bernardo Silva once again has been linked away with a move away from the Etihad. Obviously, we've heard that PSG is said to be interested and still consider him to be a top target. Whether that can be done or not remains to be seen. But we've also heard reports and rumours that Saudi Arabia are interested in taking the 28-year-old to over there to again boost the reputation of their league. I've got to say this. If this does happen, if Saudi Arabia do get their hands on Bernardo Silva, regardless of what you think or feel about him, and I'm putting my personal preferences and my personal opinions on him aside, is this a game changer? Is this the move that we all wake up to in regards to obviously this Saudi influence? Not that we can do anything about it, and not that it's obviously breaking any rules or anything, but is this what we now wake up to in terms of if they get Bernardo Silva? Because this is a player that is 28 years of age. He's in his prime, at the peak of his powers, playing for Manchester City, who are winning everything right now, it seems. And obviously the sky is the limit for Pep Guardiola's side in terms of however much they could win between now and the day that he leaves Manchester City. Obviously, he's used as a little bit more of a rotation squad, but you can see the importance when he plays. You can see that he is trusted in big games. You can see that he pops up in clutch moments in big games for Manchester City throughout his career. Is this the move that really does tip, or what's the best way to phrase this? Is this the move that we all eventually wake up to Saudi Arabia's influence in this? Like, we already see it, we already know about it, we already see that they've scattered their approach across the Premier League with the likes of, Chelsea's Chelsea's Deadwood, whether it be Ruben Neves of Wolves, whether it be interest in the likes of Thomas Partey at Arsenal, Riyad Mahrez is another one, of course, and maybe a few other names that have been linked as well. Is this the move that wakes us up to it? Because, like I say, he is 28 years old. He's at the peak of his powers. He's in the prime of his career. He's winning everything that there is to win with Manchester City right now. He's in a squad that is just absolutely dominating and just absolutely, by any means necessary, getting the job done one way or another. This could be a massive signing for Saudi Arabia in terms of, because you see the profile of player that have gone beforehand. Ronaldo, massive player, obviously, but nearing the end of his career, and seemingly no one else in Europe wanted him. You see Karim Benzema. Could have stayed on at Real Madrid, but probably set himself up for life with a massive money move. And let's face it, a lot of these players are going for the money. The Chelsea influence and the Chelsea connections are obviously inspiring the Saudis to buy their deadwood. And a lot of them players are either players that are meh or players that are somewhat over the hill, I guess you'd say a little bit. Koulibaly's coming towards the end of his career. Aubameyang being linked, coming towards the end of his career. Ziyech never quite lived up to the expectation and fulfillment and of demand that obviously his move to Chelsea a few years ago expected of him. He's out. Kante coming towards the end of his career. That the money that he can make in Saudi Arabia could be enough to set up him his friends, his family, and maybe like the sort of charity work and everything that he does, or obviously helping people back home or whatever it may be, set them up for life as well. This is a guy that, like I say, is in the prime of his life, in the prime of his career right now, and he could be going to Saudi Arabia. Now, I will caveat that with what I said a few days ago. When I talked about this story for the first time, I basically said that Saudi Arabia, the influence there is strong. I get that. I get the money aspect. But Bernardo Silva has won everything. He's won everything that there is with Man City. And maybe right now he's maybe thinking, I could get a lot of money by staying at City, but I could get even more by going to Saudi Arabia. I could get even more with a new challenge. I could get even more with a club that is going to trust me to carry their team for the next few years. A massive payday. And maybe, again, the money is the major and strong influence behind all this. But at the same time, with him being 28 years old, he could go on and be the face of that league. He may not have the bigger profile as, say, a Ronaldo or maybe a Benzema, but for years to come, he could grow that profile over there, and he could be probably one of the best or the best player in that Saudi league, depending on obviously who else they bring in. It could be entirely possible. But my overall point to this is this could be the biggest game changer that Saudi have pulled off, even beyond Ronaldo maybe, because they're not attracting a guy who is over the hill, is on the decline, is nearing retirement. This is a guy that they managed to pull well within his prime, well within his best years of his football career. And they've managed to sign him from obviously one of the biggest growing clubs in Europe. I think this could be a genuine game changer if this happens and this gets pulled off by whoever is going to be signing him over there. I think it could be huge. And at 306 appearances, 55 goals and 59 assists across his Manchester City career, this is obviously a guy that has got a fair few options available to him. Let's put it that way. There are a fair few options that are available to Bernardo Silva right now. And Saudi Arabia is certainly one of them. And that could make for very intriguing viewing going forward. Finally, last story. Romelu Lukaku. Big Roms, Romelu Lukaku. Could he be a target for AC Milan? Could he be a target for AC Milano? Allegedly, in a follow-up to this Tonali deal, this will free up a lot of funds for AC Milan to explore the transfer market. And an area in particular that they may look to strengthen may be their striking options. Now, we talked about Lukaku a fair amount in this in these videos and these live streams, and we've talked about how there are seemingly a fair few options out there for the Belgian striker. We've talked about how Saudi Arabia is seemingly a growing influence, not just in this transfer window, but maybe on him, and how maybe Chelsea are looking to get rid of more deadwood, and he is seemingly on the chopping block. We talked about how Inter Milan are definitely interested, but may not have the financial capability of maintaining him or keeping him on from that loan last season on a more permanent basis. There may be one or two options elsewhere out there for Lukaku, but one that has emerged today from some certain Italian sources is that AC Milan could be using some of the money that they may bring in from Tonali to sign Lukaku. Now, of course, this is very early stages. This could all be speculation for all we know. But it does make you wonder whether or not Lukaku would cross that Milan divide. We know that given choice, if obviously he could right now, he probably would go back to Inter Milan, a club that obviously made him a bigger name, obviously helped him become a better striker, shall we say, over recent years. And obviously, since obviously moving back to Chelsea, it's kind of declined again somewhat. But he played some of his best football and had some of his best years in Italy, in which, of course, he helped Inter towards their first Serie A title in, what was it, over a decade or something along the lines. Him and Lautaro Martinez struck up a fierce partnership in that Inter squad, and of course, like I say, helped them become the Serie A champions at that time. Would he cross that Milan divide? Would he cross from Inter to AC Milan? Would be very interesting to find out if that obviously is the case. But like I say, he does seem to have a fair few options. And the reports does go on to suggest that, like I said, Saudi Arabia does seem to be a growingly convincing on Lukaku, allegedly. So again, he could be another player that's looking for another payday and a big payday at that. Going out to Saudi Arabia, big culture change out there. Obviously, a lesser league, which may help and benefit his football to make him look better than maybe what he is. We'll see. We'll see on that one. We shall see if obviously there is something to these rumors of obviously Lukaku going to AC Milan, or whether it's Saudi Arabia or not. But it will be interesting to see what AC Milan do in terms of how they reinvest that money and who they bring in. Do they already have someone in the wings, so to speak? Maybe someone from their academy. Maybe there's someone that they've got their eye on already to replace Tonali. Because let's face it, if this is to be the case and it's going to be to reinvest that money in a striker, it's not a like-for-like change, is it? So maybe they already have an idea as to who's going to replace Tonali, whether it's someone, like I say, from their academy, from their youth setups, or whether it's going to be someone at a cheaper price and they can split the money between those two kind of signings. Will be very interesting. But like I say, it will be also interesting as well to see where the future of Romelu Lukaku lies, because, like I say, he seems to have a fair few options, and it's mad to think that this player's had this big of a drop off. It's mad to think, like, when he first came into England and he was with Everton and he was with West Brom and obviously Chelsea and well, the first time at Chelsea, there was so much promise and potential with this guy. Suddenly he goes to Manchester United and something instantly goes wrong. Something instantly goes wrong. He's not the same player as he was at West Brom on loan or at Everton. And something was clearly wrong, and he wasn't the player that we all thought he was. And then he goes to Inter, and it's a slower league out there. It's a different league. It's got different prospects and different attributes and everything. But he looks better, and he looks like he's matured as a striker, and he looks like he's got his confidence back, and he looks like he's got his fitness back, and it looks like he's got his killer instinct back. And then he moves back to England with Chelsea, and suddenly it's all gone again. And it's all like he's very hit and miss, and he's very inconsistent. Again, I'd love to know more on what you guys think on this Romelu Lukaku situation, whether it's him as a player or whether it's where his future may lie. I would like to see what you guys think, because I think it could all make for interesting and intriguing reading. But I've got to wrap it up there. I'm going to wrap it up there. So these are, of course, are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on anything that I've talked about of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys think and feel on any of the stories that I've talked about in this video, whether it be about Tottenham's newest goalkeeper, newest acquisition, whether it be Sandro Tonali, whether it be Ilkay Gundogan's move to Barcelona, whether it be Bernardo Silva possibly being on the verge of signing for Saudi Arabia, or whether it be Romelu Lukaku and a potential move across the Milan divide to AC Milan rather than Inter, where I think his preference would rather be if he had the choice to move from Chelsea right now. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on any of these stories or anything else that you want to talk about for future videos or live streams that could all make for interesting reading down in the comment section, the chat, wherever it may be. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video or enjoyed the live stream. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. But things always and forever be greatly appreciated. Thank you all for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talk live stream, and I will see you and speak to you all again soon in another video.